The mess hall of the Valiant Crest hummed with the usual cacophony of intergalactic military life. Kaia Thorne sat alone at a corner table, her fingers wrapped around what might have been the last decent meal she'd see for weeks. A triple-decker sandwich assembled with the kind of precision that would make a demolitions expert weep. Real earth bread, actual synthesized turkey, and glory of glories cheese that didn't taste like recycled boot leather. She'd traded 2 weeks of fuel rations for the ingredients. Across the vast chamber, various species from the Galactic Coalition mingled in their designated zones. The serpentine Scythac coiled around their heated platforms. The crystalline Vextari clinked and hummed in harmonic conversation. And the Dravik warriors born, every single one of them, dominated the central tables with their bulk and their bellowing. Kaia had been stationed aboard the Valiant Crest for 3 months now, one of only 12 humans assigned to the massive dreadnought. Humanity was still the newcomer species, the soft-flesh primitives who'd barely crawled out of their own star system before stumbling into a galaxy at war. Nobody took them seriously. She was halfway through her first glorious bite when a shadow fell across her table. Cub Dravik stood there, barely reaching her shoulder height, which for a Dravik meant he was still an adolescent. His amber fur bristled with the arrogance of youth, and his twin tusks, still small and unadorned, jutted from his lower jaw. The traditional warrior braids hung loose around his face, marking him as unblooded, untested. "Human," he rumbled in Coalition Standard, his voice cracking slightly. "I claim your food as training tribute." Kaia blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard." Soft flesh. Dravik's clawed hand shot out and snatched the sandwich from her plate with the lightning reflexes his species was famous for. Cub warriors take from lesser species to prove dominance. This is our way. Around them, conversations died. A dozen species turned to watch. This was a test not just for Kaia but for humanity itself. The Dravik culture respected only strength, only those who fought for what was theirs. Kaia stood slowly, her chair scraping against the metal floor. She was tall for a human woman, but Dravik, even the young ones, were built like bears crossed with tigers. Cub Dravik grinned, showing all his teeth, already turning away with his prize. "You know," Kaia said conversationally, "I traded 2 weeks of fuel rations for that sandwich." "Then you are fool as well as weak," Dravik laughed, taking an enormous bite. What happened next would be discussed in the mess hall for months afterward. Kaia moved. Humans weren't strong like the Dravik. They weren't fast like the Scythac. But millions of years of persistence hunting had given them something else. Endurance, creativity, and the sheer stubborn refusal to accept defeat. She vaulted over her table, using the momentum to launch herself at Dravik's back. The cub's eyes widened in shock. No species had ever been foolish enough to physically challenge a Dravik, even a young one. Her arm wrapped around his thick neck in a chokehold while her legs locked around his torso. Dravik roared, spinning and thrashing, but Kaia held on like a rodeo champion on a particularly angry bull. Her free hand snaked around and plucked the sandwich from his grip with surgical precision. "Mine," she hissed into his ear. The cub slammed backward into a wall, trying to crush her. Pain exploded through Kaia's shoulders, but she'd survived worse in Earth's military training. She released her hold and dropped, rolling between his legs as he turned. In one fluid motion, she was back on her feet, sandwich held high like a trophy. The mess hall had gone completely silent. Dravik's amber eyes blazed with fury and something else, something that might have been respect. He charged, and Kaia didn't retreat. She sidestepped at the last possible second, using his momentum against him, and he crashed into another table. Vextari scattered with musical shrieks. "You want this sandwich?" Kaia called out, circling. "You're going to have to earn it, cub." Something shifted in Dravik's expression. He straightened, touching his tusks in a gesture Kaia had seen adult Dravik warriors use acknowledgement of a worthy opponent. "You fight with honor, human," he said, his voice carrying across the silent hall. "But the challenge is not complete. Then let's complete it." Kaia set the sandwich down on a neutral table. "First one to it wins." They faced each other across 10 meters of open floor. The mess hall felt like an arena. Even the ship's AI seemed to hold its breath, dimming the ambient noise. They moved simultaneously. Dravik had youth, claws, and instinct. Kaia had desperation, cunning, and the memory of every playground fight, every training exercise, every moment she'd been told humans didn't belong among the stars. She didn't try to overpower him. Instead, she went low, sliding under his reach like a baseball player stealing home. Her fingers brushed the plate just as his claws came down. She rolled, sandwich clutched to her chest, and came up running. Dravik gave chase, but Kaia had already vaulted back to her original table, sandwich held high. She took an enormous, defiant bite. The mess hall erupted. Species she'd never spoken to before roared their approval. The side deck hissed with what might have been laughter. Even the stoic Vextari chimed with appreciation. Dravik approached slowly, and Kaia tensed, ready for round 2. But instead, he touched his tusks again and executed a formal bow, the kind reserved for warriors of equal standing. "You have fire spirit, Kaia Thorn," he said, using her name for the first time. "You fight not with strength, but with Dravik the Clever Claw. This is worthy." He paused, then added grudgingly, "I should not have taken what was yours without honorable challenge." Studied him for a long moment, then broke her sandwich in half. She offered the larger piece to Dravik. "Among humans," she said, "warriors who test each other share the victory feast." Dravik's eyes widened. His fur rippled with emotion that Kaia couldn't quite interpret. Slowly, almost reverently, he accepted the offering. They ate in companionable silence while the mess hall gradually returned to normal around them. "Tomorrow," Dravik said between bites, "I teach you proper Dravik combat forms. And I'll teach you why humans are the galaxy's best persistence hunters," Kaia countered. The cub's tusks glinted as he grinned. "Deal, warrior friend." Later, Kaia would learn that no species had ever dared challenge a Dravik for food before. She'd done it without weapons, without backup, armed only with determination and an unwillingness to let anyone human or alien take what was hers without a fight. The story spread through the fleet like wildfire. The soft-fleshed human who choked out a Dravik cub for a sandwich became legend. But more importantly, humanity had earned something more valuable than fear: respect. And it had cost Kaia nothing more than 2 weeks of fuel rations and a willingness to fight for what mattered, even if what mattered was just a really good sandwich.